He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to the Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. Today we're going to have a Coast View session with Chief John Miller, who's the Chief of Police for the Biloxi Police Department, and I look forward to having this conversation with him. But before we start, I also have Vincent Creel here, who's Manager of Public Affairs for the City of Biloxi. And, Vince and I go back a long way, but instead of me starting the show with, as I've been doing the last couple of days, about the coronavirus, not sharing numbers, but just reminding you the kind of things you need to do to protect your family, Vince and I are going to have this conversation together today. So anyway, Vincent, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Ricky. I'm so glad to finally be here. We've talked for a long time, and you're just doing some amazing things here. The people that you're able to draw in is amazing.
Someone said, Ricky, you got a thick Rolodex, and it turns out I did.
Oh yeah.
It's been fun getting back into the conversations with people after being retired for 3 years, but I never really got out of touch. But it has been liberating, actually.
So retirement just didn't work out for you.
I'm still retired. This is a hobby. You know how that is. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed creating this digital history book and having conversations with people who have some really inspiring things to teach people. And we've got this now, over 40 videos that we produce now, that people can go see some of the stalwarts in our community, see the mayors, see people who are doing incredible entrepreneur work. And then as the coronavirus sort of unfolds, we'll be talking to people who are in the know. And, I think one of the most important things we can do now is not only protect our families, but begin a process to figure out what does on the other side of this look like so that we can get back to that, whatever it is, as quickly as possible. And appreciate your willingness to come here today. As we were talking about before the show, you're really very focused on helping people understand that, as I've said in the last few shows, we've had a lot of disasters before. We know how to do this. Look at this as another storm. As a different kind of a storm. It's going to be a little bit prolonged, but we have to prepare, just like we normally would. We'd have to hunker down for the storm. It's going to take a little bit longer hunkering down. But at the end of the day, we'll get through this. We're very resilient. We're very focused on recovery here. We know what it's like to lean back to each other and rely on each other. We're all in this together. So there's an opportunity now to just make sure people are taking care of their families. That's big on your mind too, isn't it?
It has been, and Mayor Gillich likes to talk about our DNA. That DNA thing in Biloxi about how we're focused on hospitality. We're focused on being genuinely friendly. We're focused on being an inviting community. So the things we're having to do right now are just totally against the way we were brought up and the way that our tourism industry, being such a big part of Biloxi and South Mississippi, to think that we're shuttering some of our businesses and to think that we're telling people certain things are closed. But we have to remember that unlike a hurricane, which is something you can see out there in the Gulf, we're dealing with something that, as we discussed, is already here. And so people should not become alarmed when they see these cases start to increase, because that just means that now we know about it. They've been here. And what we're trying to do, and we're really hoping that a lot of people will start to come around to this, we're trying to flatten that curve. You've seen that curve so many times where the line comes across and shows you what the healthcare industry's capacity is. And if we can lower that curve to where it falls under that line, it will make it much more manageable. But everybody is still going to be susceptible to this. However, the healthcare industry will be in a better position to be able to take care of people. So what are we asking people to do? What we're asking people to do is continue to listen to the credible media sources. And when I say credible media sources, I'm talking about whenever you see some of the Centers for Disease Control people come out and say something, you want to lean forward and pay attention. You want to do what's best for your family. Same thing with the hurricane. Whenever there's an evacuation order or it's going to be flooding, people know where they live. They know if they live on the river. They know the things they need to do. Same thing with this. You know if you've got someone in your family who is susceptible to illness, prone to it, then you know there's certain precautions you need to take. But it's nothing to be alarmed about. It's just, as you've said, we are a community that it's ingrained in us to prepare for these kinds of things, namely a hurricane normally. But I got to ask you, Ricky, in your long career, how many unprecedented things have we seen now?
It's been unbelievable. But, we continue to see the spirit of everyone. I was watching yesterday. I'm a big Coldplay fan. And Chris, you see a lot of bands and their musicians are on Instagram or on Facebook because they're cooped up in their houses like everybody else is. Chris Martin said something really cool yesterday. He said that he's reminded how, as a worldwide community, we're all in this together. And he hadn't felt that way since September the 11th. Well, here in coastal Mississippi, we've had that feeling over and over again, unfortunately, but it's part of our DNA. That when a disaster hits, we come together, we help neighbor helping neighbor, we do what we have to do to recover. One of the things you said I thought was important, and I really want to give George Freeland, who was with me a couple of days ago from the Jackson County Economic Development, a little bit of props for this, but he said this, it was essentially what you just said, that we're used to coming together. That's what we do. When it's time to go after a disaster and solve a problem, we're going to do that together. But right now, we're being told to stay apart.
as long as we're 6 feet apart.
That's right. There's a lot you can do, though, to connect by phone and FaceTime and Skype and whatever other ways. People shouldn't see this as an opportunity to disconnect. Actually, they should see this as an opportunity to connect.
I want to tell you one of the most important things for not only coastal Mississippi, but for all of Mississippi, and I hope it does not get lost in traffic. And I'm talking about the census. While you're sitting at home right now, please take the time to fill out that census form. You know as well as I do how vital that is and how hard it is to go back and change it if there's been an undercount. So if we get it right the first time.
It determines how federal money is distributed. I mean, we need to make sure we get our fair share. The only way to know that we're going to get our fair share is to make sure there's an accurate count.
People don't realize how much it impacts them. The roads you drive on, the bridge, the kids, the schools your kids go to. It's every single facet of your life is touched by the federal government. And someone has given us this time now to be able to stop and pause and fill out that census form. Paul Tisdale, our city council member, told me that he did his in 10 minutes. Now, of course, the mayor had to chirp right in and say he did his in 9. So that's our mayor. But that's our important message, though.
It is. It really is. But let's come back to the most important message that people can hear today, and that is just protect your family. If you have family members or friends that you come in contact with, just remember this point, that you're only going to be as strong as the weakest link you come in contact with. So you really want to fortify the people that you're around. That's what social distancing is all about. We can't say that enough, can we, Vince?
No, not at all. Because, again, it goes against everything we're taught. Another thing that you're seeing all cities do here in coastal Mississippi is we are encouraging people to support your local restaurants, support your local businesses, but do it in a way that makes sense. Call ahead and get that to-go order. Some restaurants are offering curbside service. Those are the types of avenues that we need to be pursuing to just put a little common sense and practical thinking into this.
Real quick before you leave, what's Fofo up to today?
I just heard the hook. Did you hear the hook? He said real quick. What he's doing this morning is he does every Thursday morning. He goes out to Wool Market, and it's a group of about 6 or 7 people. Notice it's not 10. And what he does is he sits with them, and he's been doing this since before he became mayor. He goes out and he calls it the Wool Market Planning Commission. And what he does is he hears what's on their mind, and they do it in a little convenience store out there in Wool Market.
Really?
They got a little table right there in the store, and they even got a little sign that says Wool Market Planning Commission.
That's awesome.
And so he has been in touch with them to know what their concerns are. Other than that, what he's doing is every time he encounters somebody, they want to tell him their story and how they are being impacted. And as mayor, what he does is he listens to their story, he gives them some encouragement, and he hammers home those same things that we've been talking about in this show. And a big part of leadership is not only just making decisions, but it is comforting people. When you can't offer them help, you offer them hope. And he's real good at that.
He's a good listener. I remember, I told this story when he and I were together on our Coast View session, but when I watched him in the Sylvania golf tournament and interacting with those 1,000 people, I literally came to the conclusion that there's not a single person in the room he doesn't know. I mean, it's incredible, his ability to connect. So it's good to hear he's doing that. And he did, he's not telescoping that he's doing that every Thursday, is
no,
he?
He's just been doing it. Yeah, and if he doesn't go, I'm sure he's going to hear from him. But I've enjoyed working for him, and it's in times like this when you can see people rise to the occasion, and that's always exciting to see.
We're lucky in that we've got good leadership across the coast, and we'll have this opportunity in a few minutes to have a conversation with John. But before you leave, what do you have to say about Chief Miller?
Chief Miller is somebody that we've pretty much tolerated here in Biloxi. John Miller is somebody that's worked his way up, and he knows the ins and outs of the police department. And everything's not black and white. He knows that there's a gray area, and he looks to move things forward in a very transparent fashion. That's the thing that you and I appreciate.
I'm looking forward to, after the break, coming back and introducing him even more significantly to people outside of Biloxi. I think people in Biloxi know him, but maybe there's some that don't. I was so impressed as I did my research on him. What a phenomenal leader he is. He's the right guy at the right time. And you'll see why I say that in just a few minutes. But anyway, buddy, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, and keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it, buddy.
Please, you look at the big picture, which is very important.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We'll see you after the break with Chief John Miller.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to SuperTalk.msGulfCoast.com.
When it comes to helping neighbors, Mississippians have always answered that call. And now with the coronavirus, you're being called again. If you're sick, stay home. Avoid close contact with anyone who is sick. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue. Don't touch your face, eyes, nose, or mouth. And make sure you wash your hands with soap and water frequently and thoroughly. Thoroughly means it should take at least 20 seconds. The coronavirus is here, so Mississippi, let's get serious about stopping it.
Just like money in your pocket, that's Super Pawn. When you trade with us, you always get our best. Super deals are wide, whether you sell or buy. We cash checks, prepaid bills, we make loans like no one will. Help you keep your pockets filled. Just like money in your pocket, that's Super Pawn.
Hey, this is Lisa Stofan. Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking with hypnosis. Hypnosis eliminated my desire for soda and fast food, made me want to exercise, and I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. My energy level exploded. I went to another session to deal with some other problem foods, and I lost another 10 pounds. In fact, I brought my husband. He lost weight. More important, cholesterol and blood pressure improved. My friend went and she lost 20 pounds in the first 2 months. So does Mark Patrick hypnosis work? Oh yeah, it works. Nothing has changed my life more. Well, except maybe my husband. He's so proud of me. Makes me cry.
Now, there's a great story. Because of the coronavirus, the seminar is now online live with America's hypnotist, Mark Patrick, in the comfort and safety of your living room. Live online seminar for the greater Gulfport, Mississippi area will be held live Wednesday, March 25th. Register now, only $49.99, guaranteed at markpatrickseminars.com.
When you need to pick up a last-minute birthday card or gift, stop into Love's Pharmacy and Gifts in Pass Christian. Yes, Love's is a full-service pharmacy, combining local hospitality and affordability. When half of the store has unique gifts, beautiful decorations for your home, fragrances, and free gift wrapping, you only have to make one stop. Love's Pharmacy and Gifts, 12345 Vidalia Road in Pass Christian. If you love great service with a smile, you'll love Love's Pharmacy, with a second location now open in Ocean Springs.
Quick question. When you leave work, who do you trust to clean up after you? Are they consistent, efficient, on time? And have they been cleaning here for over 30 years? If you answered no to any of those questions, then it's time to go to JannyKingCleans.com and switch to Janny King, the king of clean. For a cleaner office, medical facility, school, building, church, venue, and even stadiums. Go to JannyKingCleans.com now and make the switch today. That's JannyKingCleans.com.
Janny King, the king of clean.
This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. Now we're going to shift gears. It was a wonderful conversation with Vincent Creel just then, the public affairs manager for the city of Biloxi. And please take the advice that he gave to heart. Really continue to focus on protecting your family and really understanding for sure what social distancing really means, that you can't make a mistake as it relates to that, because once you do, you become a weak link in your family chain. So just please take that to heart. Now we're going to have a conversation with Chief John Miller, who's the Chief of Police for the city of Biloxi. And man, he's got a great journey. He was actually born in Pascagoula, grew up in Ocean Springs, came to Biloxi. He's been to the city of Biloxi and has kind of worked his way up through the ranks. We're going to get to all of that. But before we get started, Chief, I just wanted to tell you that, I've watched you from a distance, and as I prepared, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, for this discussion today, like I was when I had spent time with Chief Leonard Papania, I'm really impressed with your leadership. And I think that probably came to bear when, unfortunately, Robert McKithen was, Patrolman Robert McKithen was just senselessly murdered in the line of duty. Watching you, the way you dealt with the family, the way you dealt with the press, the way you dealt with the community was so important. This calm voice of experience, someone said fatherly-like approach, was so important for people to hear. That's the sign of leadership. When the going get tough, the leaders get calm, and they really help give a sense of, as tough as this is, we're going to get through it. And to me, everything that you bring to your job came to bear in that moment. Do you look back on it and sense it that way yourself?
I guess I do. There was just, and I appreciate the kind words, but there were just so many people behind the scenes that were there to help me that I certainly could not have made it without them. So that looking back now, some of it's almost a dream. I don't know how a lot of it worked out as well as it did, but trying to stay calm was the main thing for me. Because I knew people were watching me and they were looking at me, and they, I felt like whatever I displayed was the exact feelings that they were going to have, and so I tried to stay calm. And it was very difficult not to be emotional, especially with anybody, but with Robert. Robert, I'd known him for a long time. We'd worked together, and Robert was just a fine person, a good cop, but a really fine person. And so it was a very difficult time. And what made it tougher,
I'm just repeating what you said in the past, but what made it tougher was this wasn't like a shootout. This is something that didn't need to happen.
No, it didn't need to happen, and Robert never had an opportunity. As a cop, you want an opportunity. If you're going to go down, you want to at least know that you had a chance to defend yourself, and Robert never had that, and that just made it worse. Just a bigger tragedy for all the men and women at the Biloxi Police Department to see it that way.
One more thing about that, incidentally, was it was amazing watching the department come together after that. And I remember you making some comment along the way about how no one wanted to go home, every single aspect. I mean, you've got nearly 100 patrolmen, but then you've got dispatchers and people who work in the office and different roles that people play, but everyone came together and wanted to do everything in their power to see this thing come to a conclusion. It was amazing to watch that, wasn't it?
It really was. It was amazing to live it. I didn't see that coming at first. I figured they would be exhausted and ready to go, and they were exhausted. But I had to literally force people to go home, and even then, some didn't go home. I thought they went home, but they didn't.
Well, thank you for your leadership during those difficult times. Now, let's kind of shift gears a bit before we get into your story and other things that might be on your mind. The coronavirus in particular affects public service in a very specific way. And I know that's got to be incredibly top of mind to you. So tell us about how it's impacting you guys. What are the provisions that you're putting in place? And just kind of talk through that a bit.
Sure. Well, we're aware that we have to take care of ourselves. We know that, which is usually not something that the cops or firefighters or EMT people worry about themselves as much. But we know that if we go down, it's going to affect a lot of people. So we put some precautions in place to try to help us stay, ahead of the virus. When someone calls in a complaint now, we're asking that if an officer needs to go out, that they actually meet the officer outside, so he doesn't have to go in the home. So we, exposure's cut down a great deal there. If there is an exposure to be had there,
because we know, and this is an opportunity to sort of inject this, that different studies have been done, but the virus can live on a hard surface for up to 3 days, maybe longer, but 3 days is sort of the stated point. On cardboard, I think, for 24 hours.
That's
so
right.
It's a different kind of a virus as it relates to that. So you got to be super careful.
You really have to be super careful. So we're asking them to meet us in the yard if they can. If it's an incident where we don't have to send an officer out, and it's just we really need a report for insurance purposes or for whatever reason, we're trying to take that over the phone now, and that's a new gimmick for us because we like to go out and meet with people. There's nothing like meeting with a person, and other things come to light when you do that. So, taking the calls over the phone are a little bit different, but it's working for us. We've certainly outfitted our officers with all the practical things they need, from hand sanitizer to gloves and masks, and all those things are in place. And social distancing. Our officers even in briefing, that they're not close together, which is another issue. Briefing here, I think we started yesterday. Most of that briefing is done over the phone instead of all the officers meeting together, and we're going to continue some of that as we can.
What about when you arrest somebody, because that requires contact? It
does require contact, and so there's some arrests that we will have to make, and then there's some arrests where we can issue them a citation, even though it's not a traffic offense. We can issue them a citation and, say you're going to be in court on this day and not make the arrest. Because once we make the arrest, not only the officers, not only are we going to deal with them, they're coming to the station, the booking officer is going to deal with them, and then someone would go to the county jail, and now you've got a potential hazard there to expose everyone at the county jail. So the arrest, we're certainly going to make them if we need to, but if there's a situation where we can handle it without making the arrest, we're going to do that.
You know what's amazing to me? If you go back, as a publisher of the newspaper for the latter part of my career, I had an opportunity to spend a lot of time looking at police departments in various communities, from Mobile to New Orleans. And I've had the opportunity to gain a great appreciation for not only how difficult the role can be, but the amount of training that is required. I mean, it's a different job than it was 10 or 15 years ago. And so, there are legal reasons for the training. There are specific approaches you have to take. There's a lot there. But then you put on top of that coronavirus. So one more thing that the officers have to train on. It's a tough job, isn't it, Chief?
It is a tough job, and you hit the nail on the head. It has drastically changed in just the last 10 years. But if you look back 30 years, man, there's been a change. Training at one time, a cop was just a cop. I mean, when I hired in, you got a badge, you got a gun. You were lucky if you got a full uniform, because things were kind of tight. But you went to work and you learned a lot of things on your own. Well, that's the thing of the past. So much training is involved now. So much training is mandated, and a lot of people don't realize all the training. There's some training just about every month. If it's not mandated by law or the state, it's mandated by our department. Because we try to stay ahead and make sure that our officers completely understand what's going on around them. In the old days, if there was a change in a criminal pattern or something like that, it might be 24 months before law enforcement realized, hey, this is what's going on. Well, we've cut that way down now. We've really tried to stay ahead of the program and understand what's going on in society.
And what comes with that is a level of competency that is required, so that there is a lot more rigor in the hiring process than there used to be as well, isn't it? It's a whole different ballgame.
Oh, my goodness.
So having qualified, we can talk about whether you're diverse as you need to be, because there's always been issues around that. I actually read way back on that issue, and it's been an issue for a very long time and a desire to have the police department represent, in terms of the makeup of the police department, represent the community. But it's easier said than done, even though there's a tremendous amount of effort, and not only in the African American community and other communities, but even in the Caucasian community. Qualified candidates are still something that's a challenge, isn't it?
It really, really is. A lot of young folks just don't want to be the police anymore. Regardless of race or gender, overall, they just don't want to be the police, which is a little surprising to me. With all the cop shows out there, you thought that would really be motivating people, and everybody seems to love to watch the cop shows, but not everybody wants to be a cop. Particularly difficult to hire minorities. Now, when I say minorities, females seem to be a little bit different now. We've hired quite a few females. In the old days, very difficult to get a female that wanted to be a policeman. Quite a few now. Matter of fact, We did a test about a year ago, and the majority that came for the test were female.
Wow, that's
so
interesting.
we've seen that increase, which is a little surprising to me, and that doesn't seem to be everywhere. I've talked to chiefs throughout the country who are not experiencing that. So I don't know why we are, but I'm glad we are.
Yeah. One of the things that Leonard Papania and I talked about, and we're getting near the break now, but we don't have, as a general rule, the issues in the diverse communities with our police department that some of the big cities have. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we'll get into that after the break. But before we get too far away, when we come back for the break, we'll go back to the coronavirus one more time and make sure we hear the message you want to send to people about not only how they protect themselves, but whatever appeals you had to them to help you protect your officers. So we'll come back to that after the break. This is Chief John Miller with the Biloxi Police Department, and thank you for joining us, and we'll be back after this break.
SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Twitter at SuperTalk MSGC.
From the Singing River Electric and Coast Electric Newsroom, your news now.
The number of presumptive COVID-19 positive cases in Mississippi are on the rise every day. 13 new cases added yesterday alone. 3 cases in Harrison County, 1 case in Jackson County, 1 case in Hancock County, while there are 2 reported cases in Pearl River County. On Wednesday, Belt, Party City, and Old Navy and Crossroads have temporarily closed. In D'Iberville, the Grand Theater has temporarily closed as well. Walmart has announced new hours to help staff clean and restock the shelves. They'll now be open from 7 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. And Ship Island Excursions have suspended operations until further notice. The Bay Waveland School District will move their spring break to next week with hopes of returning to class on March 30th. Pearl River Community College have also extended their spring break to cover next week as well, with hopes of moving to online classes on March 30th. The Long Beach School District have also announced they'll be closed next week too. For SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1, I'm Kyle Curley.
Favorite thing about my street?
It's quiet.
Safe. The people.
We rely on each other.
And we rely on our Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
The co-op isn't just about electricity.
It's about power.
The power of information, efficiency,
safety,
technology.
That's why whenever I have a question about energy,
I always call my Touchstone Energy Cooperative first.
Because in my community,
I am the co-op. And the co-op
is me.
Brought to you by Coast Electric and Singing River Electric, your Touchstone Energy Cooperatives.
Sometimes the issues of life require the assistance of a professional. Whether it involves an asbestos-related disease such as mesothelioma, personal injury from an accident, a real estate issue, or even an impending arrest charge, you need the help of an attorney. Cumbest, Hunter & McCormick have more than 100 years combined experience representing the interests of Jackson County and Gulf Coast clients. Cumbest, Hunter & McCormick, proud to support the Ole Miss Rebels. 762-5422, cchmlawyers.com.
The Love Help Hotline.
I'm in love with 2 different...
We get this call a lot. Let's start off with their names.
Okay, Double Shop and PJ's. I love them both so much.
Double Shop, One Stop, and PJ's Coffee, like the businesses off Exit 50 in Ocean Springs.
You know them?
Hey, Marv, we've got another one.
It's too much for me to handle. The state's largest selection of beers on one side, the world's best coffee and sandwiches on the other at PJ's. Party supplies at Double Shop, party cake pops at PJ's.
Okay, listen, Bucko, I'm going to say this once. PJ's now sells some of Double Shop's premier brands on tap, like Chandelier Island Brewing Company and Southern Prohibition. Plus, Double Shop dropped off a nice selection of bottled beers, including some hard seltzers. And if you like growlers... Don't do that. Double Shop One Stop, just 50 yards north of Exit 50 on the right, and PJ's Coffee right across the street. Ocean Springs Latimer now has the best coffee on the coast, plus craft beer on tap, sandwiches, and other goodies.
Hey, I'm the embarrassment emoji. The apology emoji, and I noticed you're using us a lot lately. Instead, use the new C2C People Pay from the Citizens Bank and make splitting the check at dinner, paying soccer fees, the babysitter, anyone as easy as sending a text. You get more happy emojis, and we get time alone with that cute meme.
Introducing C2C People Pay from the Citizens Bank. Pay your share, your family, your friends, the easy way. Member FDIC.
Hello, my name is John Merrill, the owner of Amada Senior Care. We're your local trusted advisor for senior home care. We provide experienced caregivers for your loved ones so they can remain in their home. Just like you would care for your loved ones, our employees provide assistance with their personal care needs. As your trusted senior advisor, I can help your family navigate the long-term care insurance process. Just call me, John Merrill with Amada Senior Care, for your free in-home consultation, 228-254-3071.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have two risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
The Mississippi Power Weather Center. Your weather now.
Mostly cloudy today. Highs mid to upper 70s once again tonight. We'll see a 20% chance of rain take over from 10 o'clock on. The overnight low 68. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy. 30% chance of afternoon showers. Highs back in the upper 70s. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy. 60% chance of showers with fog developing overnight, the low 65. Visit MississippiPower.com/ways to save to learn about programs and resources that can help you save energy and money on your electric bill.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun-Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We've got Chief John Miller here from the Biloxi Police Department, and we had a really good conversation about lots of things related to the police department, but especially coronavirus. And so before we shift the gears away from coronavirus, do you have any messages, specific message you want the general populace to hear?
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep in mind that this thing won't last forever. I know there's a bit of depression that comes with it if you've been laid off or if you're stuck at home, and the kids are there. I know there's some depression and probably some times when your anger may flare, just because of the condition of things. Just remember, keep in mind, this is a temporary thing. This isn't going to last forever. So it just keep your head together, and then try to help us with the officers. We can't have these officers getting sick and going down. So if you don't need them, don't call them. And you'd made a point earlier when we had talked about folks being home and maybe overindulging, with alcohol or something like that. Keep in mind, remember what you're doing. Remember that again, it's temporary and this isn't going to last forever. And help us out there.
So Chief, I had a great conversation with a young man by the name of Robbie D'Angelo yesterday. He's a human optimization expert. Essentially what he does is help people get in the right frame of mind to take care of their mind and their body. Had a conversation with him yesterday, and he gave some great advice about how to approach, the right mindset at home, how to exercise at home. He encouraged people to come together as a family and exercise together. It's a real opportunity to take care of yourself now that you've got this downtime. I would encourage you, if you didn't see that interview, to go back to Facebook 103.1. It's SuperTalk Gulf Coast on Facebook, and you can watch that video. But there's a lot on. He said YouTube's your friend right now. If you're stuck at home, there's a lot on there to help you improve yourself. So use this as an opportunity to do that.
Sound advice.
So you grew up in Pascagoula. Actually, you're born in Pascagoula. Grew up in Ocean Springs. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I did. I was born in Pascagoula. My dad had a couple of businesses there in Pascagoula, and I guess by about first grade, maybe we had moved to Ocean Springs, and I grew up there. Went to high school in Ocean Springs. Always worked in Biloxi, one job or another, and then. Well, that's where it ended.
Yeah.
Just a great childhood coming up. Great parents. I didn't have any. My dad was a tough old bird. Now, I mean, he was a tough guy, and my mom was just exactly the opposite. She was he was pretty conservative, and she was pretty liberal, you know. So it was a good mix of the two. And my brother and sister were a good bit older than me. My brother graduated from high school the year I was born. He was a musician, and so he was out of the house and gone, you know, by the when I was coming up. And then my sister was there up till I was about 10, and then she was married and moved on, and then we had a niece that moved in with us, and more like a sister, and so she was raised with us. So it was a good upbringing.
So you've got kids and grandkids. Tell me about your family.
I do. I have Wesley as my son. Gretchen is my daughter. Wesley's a policeman also in Jackson County, and works for the district attorney's office there. And my daughter, her degree is in psychology, and she works here in Gulfport for the state. And I think they both enjoy their jobs very much. Good kids, never had a lot of problems. You know, I had to straighten them out a couple of times when they were young, but they've, I'm really proud of them. They really impressed me, and they're both just great. They both married great people. And so I'm very fortunate there. Grandkids, have one Wesley has one stepson who's the only boy. He's a great kid. Then he has 2 daughters, you know, and then my daughter has 3 daughters, so it's all girls, you know, and they're ranging in age from 8 down to 3.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had a great conversation with Angel Myers. Man, what an inspiring leader she is, and what she's going through, and rose above her family or daughter difficulties, and to be such a passionate DA over there.
Yep.
What an opportunity your son has to work around people like that. So you've been with the department for 29 years.
That's right. Yep. Started December the 17th, 1990. I had, even back then, applying to the police department took several months usually before you'd ever get an answer. So I had applied to several. And I got a call one morning after waiting several months from the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. They said, "Hey, you're hired. You're going to start to work December the 17th. And I said, "Well, that's great." So I hung up the phone. I told my wife, I said, "Guess what? I'm going to be a deputy. I'm going to be Jackson County deputy." And then that afternoon, the phone rang again, and it was Biloxi. And they said, "Hey, you've been hired. Your start date is December the 17th. I said, "Oh, really?" And honestly, cops didn't make a lot. Still don't, but cops certainly didn't make a lot of money back then. And the determining factor for me, because I loved the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. There were great people there. But the determining factor was $200. There was a $200 difference a year, not a month, a year. Wow. And that's why I guess I'm going to Biloxi.
That's awesome. 29 years. And what's interesting about your story is that you could have retired and you chose not to. You're hanging in there to continue to provide leadership for the city. What goes into that decision to continue to work?
Well, if it was up to my wife and my family, I'd be at home now. They'd really prefer that. Personally, I'm just not ready to stop. We've seen some hard times, we've seen some really good times, and then we see hard times again, and then I know we're going to see good times again. And for me, it's I like being there. I like dealing with the issues every day, although they're very problematic the last 5 years maybe. But I like dealing with them. I kind of know my way through them, I think. And then I have a good team around me, and then I work for a great community. I just can't stress that enough. And you've seen that in the things that have happened in the past, how the community supported us and came together. And, it's hard to walk away from that.
Yeah, I think, as I said to you offline, I think one of the reasons why there is a better than average relationship between the police departments along the coast and the community, for the most part, is because, first of all, Mississippians are generous people to begin with. We're one of the top in the country. The other is that we've been through so many disasters, as we said earlier in the show, we've had to come together more often. And I think, there's a lot more to it than that. But then the other is leadership. If you think about the leaders who are in the key position, yourself and Leonard and others, who are really focused on making sure that you lead patrolmen in a positive way and don't surprise them and communicate with them and bring them together in difficult times like you did after Robert McKithen's death. There's a lot that goes on here. And one of the things that I've heard you mention before, that after Robert's death, that I think the African American ministers reached out to you, and there was, when you have these kind of ongoing open communications between all communities, it can't help but help, right?
Right. And you're absolutely right. I can't stress it enough. The Ecumenical Leadership Council were the first ones to come forward. Those guys were like right there, what can we do to help, And I really appreciated that. It means a lot to you, especially when you got the weight of the world on your shoulders for a little while. That really helps a lot. Those guys came forward, but so many people, from the community came forward and just did so many things for us,
As you learned, the thing that leaders, the thing I think that will haunt leaders the most is just they keep their cards too close and they don't share things that are going to impact, people within the department, or share things that are going to impact people, that are, that are in the community. And, I can see through your demeanor and your approach that this willingness to be open and to communicate when you can, that people appreciate that. So they don't feel like, as a general rule, there's going to be a bunch of surprises. They feel like they can depend on you. We can depend on you to share with us what we need to know when we need to know it, especially if it has to do with public safety. And that's really high on your list, isn't it?
It really is. And let me just give you a good example of that. I learned a long time ago to be open. If you make a mistake, say you made a mistake. Step up, own it, and people appreciate that. But a prime example is when we went to body cameras, because what we were told, is that, this isn't going to work. It's going to get your officers in a lot of trouble. And we just didn't believe that. We've plenty of training out there. If a cop is doing what he or she is supposed to be doing, then they're not going to care if it's on camera or not. And that has been true.
It's actually going to protect them.
Absolutely. It'd be difficult now to get a cop to leave the department without a body cam. And at first they were very apprehensive about it. A lot of them like, man, I've got to really watch what I say. You're doing it already. You just don't realize it. And so that has been a prime example. Cops have completely changed their whole demeanor about being filmed and people being open.
Chief, you guys have a big budget. I know that combined between the operating budget and the capital, I know changes from year to year, but it's like, if I remember, it's like 15 to 18 million, somewhere in that range. Is that essentially what you're dealing with?
It usually runs between 16 and 20.
Somewhere in there. Over the last couple of years, yeah. So your operating budget, if you take capital out of it, is what is that?
Yeah, it's usually average about 16.5.
So that's a lot to say grace over.
It is.
And it's probably still the biggest bucket within the overall city budget. Is that correct?
It is.
So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
Well, yeah, there is. And, I didn't know anything about a budget. I didn't have the opportunity to work as assistant chief. When I took over as director, I was a captain in criminal investigations, and so that was a learning curve for me, because I'd never dealt, other than doing my little budget for criminal investigations. Right. But man, that was.
Somebody says it's all still the same numbers; it just has more zeros attached to it.
It does.
But it's essentially, the microcosm that you were in. You explode that over the whole department, and it becomes easy to kind of get your head around. Right. But there's still a lot of responsibility that goes with that. This is Chief John Miller from the Biloxi Police Department, and we're going to come back after this break. And in the final segment, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the big issues on the chief's mind outside of coronavirus, outside of recruitment, and we'll see sort of what's going on these days. We'll be back right after this break.
Inspire students and elevate learning outcomes with Ricoh Interactive Whiteboards from R.J. Young. Easily write, draw, edit, move, and save information. Connect your laptop or mobile device to turn static content into interactive lessons. Encourage participation with the easy-to-use Windows 10-based controller. To begin empowering educators, visit rjyoung.com/whiteboards.
Restrictions may apply. Plans and costs for coverage may vary. Call Protect My Car for details. In these hard economic times, you got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses could be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you do own a car, truck, or SUV made from 1999 or higher, you could stop paying for car repairs. That's right, you might not have to pay a penny to have it repaired. Just dial *235 on your mobile phone now to see if you qualify. You must have an automobile made from 1999 or higher, and all repairs for your engine, transmission, and much more can become a thing of the past. Dial *235 on your mobile phone today and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. That's right, total protection for your car and no more repair bills. Just dial *235 on your mobile phone now to see if your car qualifies. That's *235. Never pay for car repairs again. Just dial *235 on your mobile phone now. Dial *235.
Hi, it's Steve Mann. Have you heard the commercials for the Mark Patrick Stop Smoking seminars? And they said only $49.99 and it could work for you. So I thought, that's not even a week's worth of smoking. So I went. And guess what? It did work for me. You know, my friends and family are still amazed. I quit smoking. I didn't have cravings, anxiety, or weight gain. Listen, I don't know how it works, but I know it works because I'm living proof, and it's 100% guaranteed. So what do you got to lose? I'll tell you what you got to lose. A very bad habit.
Stop smoking now without cravings, irritability, weight gain, or your money back. Only $49.99 guaranteed. Hypnosis designed to work without anxiety, irritability, or weight gain. Because of the coronavirus, the seminar is now offered online live with America's hypnotist Mark Patrick in the comfort and safety of your living room. Live online seminar for the greater Gulfport, Mississippi area will be held live Wednesday, March 25th. Register now. Only $49.99 guaranteed at markpatrickseminars.com.
Summer days, winter nights, my heating and air ain't working right. Before my troubles get any worse, I'll pick up the phone and sing this verse. Barnes, oh Barnes, won't you help me? Barnes Heating and Air.
Hello, Barnes Heating and Air.
Barnes Heating and Air, 832-9457. 832-9457.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
A Florida football player who decided there were things and people more important than the game he was playing makes today's Dean's List. When Frank Calderon's team took the field in his high school football game, he made a detour towards the stands. It was Pensacola Catholic's last big game, but his thoughts were with his grandmother, Amparo. Amparo is battling cancer, and Frank is caring for her. Frank gave his grandmother flowers and a hug before saying, "I love you," in a video that's gone viral for obvious reasons. Family always comes first, he says. We've been close since I was born, and she's always been there for me. Pensacola Catholic won that night, finishing the season undefeated. Meanwhile, Frank is still helping Amparo win her battle. He says she's a strong woman, and she's beat it once, she can beat it again. Thank you, Frank, for reminding us of what's important. And Amparo, our prayers are with you as you continue your fight. Janice Dean, Fox News.
His love for the coast is why he's here. It's Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back. We have Chief John Miller from the Biloxi Police Department with us, and we've had a good review of some of the key issues. Of course, the coronavirus. We've talked about the relationship with this City of Biloxi Police Department with the community. Talked about recruiting and some of the challenges there. What I want to cover are two more issues. One is I was struck in a video that I watched about you talking about the amount of time sort of managing and dealing with the homeless community in Biloxi. It wasn't just the amount of time you spent on it. It was the amount of care and trying to understand what people's issues were. You divided the people into two categories. I'll let you talk about that. But then trying to understand how you could help them, because the reality was if you could help them today, you should, and you won't have to deal with them tomorrow. But talk a little bit about that.
Sure. You know, the homeless situation is something it's always been there a bit, but over the last few years, it certainly has grown. And you know, there's a multitude of reasons out there. I'm sure you know why that's happened the way that's happened. But it's not just here. I mean, it's all over the United States. You see these issues. But early on, we realized that if you're going to help someone, we can't just put them in jail. First of all, that's not the way to handle it. It's just going to continue to be a problem, right? So you can't do that. You can't incarcerate them and get the problem out of your hair. That's not going to happen. But we realized early on that you have to understand what the individual need is of a particular homeless person. So there's a large portion of them that have a mental illness, or they have some type of addiction, whether it be drugs or alcohol. And then there's a huge number that have both. Mm-hmm. So who knows? Who knows if they have the mental issue because of years of addiction, or if they're addicted because of these mental issues. It's very difficult, but you have to sit down. You have to find out what's going on with that individual person. So they're really you have to assess them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's happening more everywhere now. I'm glad to see that. sometimes it's a medication issue. If you can assess them and you realize that, this is what it is, then you can take the proper steps. There's help to help them get there. You mentioned actually in the past one other category, and that was people that were just down in their luck. That's right. Yeah, and those are savable pretty rapidly, aren't they? They are. You'll catch a guy or a family that's down on their luck for whatever reason. They some major expenses came their way, and then suddenly they lost their job or something. But what we see with those folks is that the help is there. And when we hand that out to them, not just the police department, but there's Open Doors Homeless Coalition and the community. Yeah. When you hand it to them and give them a hand up and get them started, they won't be in that homeless category very long. We've seen that. We know that a little bit of help and they're out, they're back, they're productive, they're working. Just need a little help. So those folks don't last very long. But the ones with the mental illness or the drug addiction, especially the drug addiction or the alcohol addiction, unless you do something drastic to try to change that, they're going to continue to be there and be a problem. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of your time, doesn't it? It takes a lot of time. We have some folks, that's all they do, officers, that's all they do every day is deal with homeless issues, whether it be complaints from a business or residents, or whether it actually be dealing directly with the homeless person that's taking their clothes off and they're running down the town green. We have a fair amount of that, and most of the time it's mental illness or related. Right. I know Chief Leonard Papania, when I talked to him, he spent so much time understanding this. He actually shares some compelling data that people who can be helped, when you help them, when you provide a way out, they can get out. And he's got some really compelling information about that. On top of that, actually, he was due to retire, and he was going to go spend his time, full time, working on the homeless issue. Right. And just recently, as you know, he decided to hang in there a little bit longer while this coronavirus situation is there. And I really give him a lot of kudos for having the leadership qualities to say he needs to stay at least through this situation. I know you've got a great working relationship with him. We go back many years. A lot of respect for Leonard, and I'm glad to see that he's going to remain in place for a while. Yeah, really glad to see that. So we're getting close. One other thing I want to mention is that the number of events that are occurring on coastal. We've had a lot of success in coastal Mississippi. With success comes things that you've got to, parades or whatever they might be. That is a big drain on resources, isn't it, Chief? It is. It's a huge drain on resources. There was a time when Mardi Gras, that was the big deal, man. That Mardi Gras, oh my God, everybody dreaded, from a cop's perspective, we dreaded Mardi Gras because it was going to be one long, hard day, Well, Mardi Gras now is just, that's just the old shoe, man. We have so many other things. Even the large events, you put the large events aside, like cruising the coast and scraping the coast and spring break, put those aside. There are events every weekend, just about year-round, whether it be a 5K or a couple of 5Ks in the same day, or it's going to be, some smaller parade or festival. There's going to be something and it takes policemen to make sure everybody's safe. Each of these are vortexes that you guys get sucked into. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're coming to the end. I wish we had more time. And look, Chief, we're going to have you back. Oh, good. Appreciate I've really enjoyed spending some time with you. And one of the things that I want to do with this show is honor the people who are working so hard to protect us. And I want to thank you for your leadership. Like I started the show, watching you in action after the patrolman's death was really something to behold about leadership. The calmness, the empathy, and the ability to help the community come to grips with what was a really terrible situation. You did a great job, and I appreciate it. So let me end with this. Good luck to you and your patrolman. Good luck to your family. Just stay safe. Don't let anybody become a weak link. You practice what you're preaching about social distancing, and you too, we need you to get through this really rapidly. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hey, much respect for you. Yeah. You are an unbelievable man, and I appreciate the time on your show. Okay, buddy, I appreciate it. So have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. We'll have Clay Williams from the airport, and we're going to have a really timely conversation about what's happening at the airport these days. So have a great day.